From WBAY TV, Jeff Alexander and Sarah Thompson. This is Action 2 News at 4. Coverage you can count on.
More than 500 police, fire, and EMS providers in Brown County are partnering for a new type of training, putting law enforcement right alongside firefighters and emergency medical personnel in some potentially dangerous situations. It's not only for active shooters, but for other major incidents like explosions or even a car driving into a crowd of people. All things where someone is intentionally trying to hurt others, and a lot of people could be injured or killed. Police are always the first in trying to stop the threat, but as we've seen around the world in other mass casualty incidents, there are almost always victims, and a lot of them who need immediate help.
An active shooter event is very, very resource intensive, and we will need everything that Brown County can bring to the table, and probably then some.
That's why every officer, firefighter, and emergency medical personnel, from large to small volunteer agencies across Brown County, are working together. Officers are paired with paramedics to respond as teams, each learning how their own role impacts the other to faster help victims and prevent more injuries. Some departments with part-time or volunteer staff have never had training like this, but would be needed in emergencies and want to be prepared to help.
Now we're training for the aftermath and how we can get there when we do respond. When we do get there, how can we get to those victims, and how can we get to the threat as quickly as we possibly can, and how we can get the resources to those victims.
And even though this training is focused on active shooters, the idea behind the response can be used for all kinds of incidents. We'll show you that tonight at 6.
From WBAY TV, coverage you can count on. Action 2 News at 6 starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. A focus on saving lives, preventing deaths, and helping victims has police, fire, and medical crews adapting their training and trying something new.
It puts them in teams going into an active shooter or other major incident immediately together. In our top story, Sarah Thompson shows us why the training is critical for rookies and veterans alike.
In a world where it feels like shootings or mass casualties happen more often, training to respond to them becomes increasingly critical, but that preparation can no longer happen the way it used to.
For years and years, law enforcement would do law enforcement things, fire and EMS would do fire and EMS things. Our world is completely different today. We've got to integrate, we've got to communicate in the same language. We have to be able to work together.
And the only way police, firefighters, and EMS, who have always had very different training backgrounds, can work together is practicing together.
And now that we've learned throughout the nation, when we have an incident like this, it's critical to bring in rescue task force and paramedics in with just behind us to treat wounded people and victims.
More than 500 people, from law enforcement to volunteer firefighters, from big agencies to the smallest Brown County communities, will eventually go through this rescue task force training. In teams, police provide cover so medical crews can move in almost immediately, giving victims a better chance of survival. It's nothing close to standard training drills, especially for part-time or volunteers who've never done anything like this. Yet they will be called to help in a major incident.
These agencies have limited amounts of training and budgets, and between the coalitions and the training, we're able to provide them with equipment that they can use on the spot right away to provide initial care.
Using the large RESH Center puts trainees to the test, but makes it more realistic.
A major campus in the county, any one of our big schools in the county, it's not going to be like this. It's going to, these are major, big square footage buildings, and that's what we're training for.
The skills also apply to other major incidents with the same goal, saving more victims.
A bus accident or a large MCI vehicle accident or, some sort of chemical release event where we have a lot of victims. All of this all works together. It's all the same thing.
Sarah Thompson, Action 2 News, Ashwaubenon.